In July, as you walk along through the countryside, you'll notice growing alongside damp ditches, meadows and other sort of wet streams and things, these beautiful flowers, all in big clusters, making broad sweeps of cream along the bank. And this is Meadowsweet, a beautiful honey-smelling plant. And its Latin name is Filipendula ulmaria, but traditionally, before reclassification, its name was Spirea ulmaria. And the name Spirea is where the name aspirin comes from. Aspirea, aspirin. In the 1800s, chemists working on finding the first chemicals from plants found that meadowsweet contained salicylic acid, which is of course what aspirin is made from. Willow bark does as well, and to a lesser extent birch bark too. So this plant rapidly developed some science behind its traditional use in herbal medicine. Meadowsweet's used a lot to treat problems with joints and muscles, and this is because it's both anti-inflammatory and a mild painkiller as well. As well as salicylic acid, it contains vitamin C, iron, calcium, magnesium and silica, all of which are necessary for a good, strong, healthy bone system. Silica in particular is used to strengthen things like hair and nails and bone. It also helps to eliminate toxins in things like uric acid, so it's particularly useful for inflammatory conditions like arthritis and gout, where toxins play quite an important role in aggravating it. We find that used externally in ointments and poultices, it can really help to relieve pain when somebody's had an injury. And used internally, it has a very similar effect to aspirin, but it doesn't tend to upset the stomach in the same way at all. It's particularly useful in conditions like acid stomach, heartburn, gastritis, peptic ulcers, and other conditions where soothing the gut is really helpful because of this anti-inflammatory nature to it. It also helps with things like colic and flatulence and distension, and makes an excellent tea for taking afterwards. One of the things about it is that it absolutely tastes delicious. These flowers have a sort of honey smell to them. You can smell it as you're walking down the road. This sort of honey smell comes towards you. And they make a cordial not unlike the taste of elderflower cordial as well. So in a tea it adds a little bit of sweetness and honey and makes a very pleasant drink. Historically, meadowsweet was used to make mead, and this goes back at least 5,000 years. What could be better than a drink that gives you all these beneficial qualities as well? And certainly with alcoholic meads, where a hangover might happen after a night of feasting, you're taking your hangover remedy at the same time and making sure that your stomach's not upset by it all. While the flowers taste absolutely delicious and honeyed, the leaves have quite a different effect. I'll pick a leaf for you. It's very easy to identify meadowsweet because it's got a very distinctive leaf pattern with leaves that come out like this, and also these tiny little leaves along the stalk which are always there. And they actually work alternately, so as they come up the stem, they come out alternately from the plant. And if you're in any doubt, picking a leaf to see if it has that characteristic medicinal smell will also help to identify it and show you. If you crumple up a leaf and smell it, you'll see that it smells just like Savlon or Germaline, an antiseptic cream. And certainly if you taste the leaves and the stalks, they've got a very medicinal quality to them. And that's because this salicylic acid, this aspirin-like quality, is concentrated into the leaves and the stems as well. So when you're making a tea or a cordial, it's quite helpful to strip the flowers off the stems if you don't want it to taste too medicinal. When you're picking meadowsweet, you want to remember that the flowers that are open are the ones that have the most smell. So avoid picking ones that have got the buds still closed up like this. The other important reason for that is not just flavour, but also because these flowers are a great source of nectar for wildlife, particularly bees. And you should be very selective and not strip all the stand that you find, but leave plenty for the bees as well. When people find a wild food, quite often they go over the top as if it's all going to suddenly disappear. But this amount here, this beautiful bridal bouquet of meadowsweet, is enough to make several litres of cordial, and it really is all you need. That's probably about 30 to 40 blossoms in there. You really want to strip the flowers off the stems, just like this. Some people use a fork to help to separate them, so that you've just got the flowers. This is because the salicylic acid is particularly concentrated in the leaves and the stems, and it can make the drink a little bit bitter if you do that. Whereas in the flowers, not only do you have the salicylic acid, but you have this lovely honey taste, which makes it a really palatable, really delicious drink. To make meadowsweet cordial, you bring about 1 litre of water to the boil, and then add about 250 grams of sugar. And then take it off the boil while you add your flowers. And the reason for doing this is because when the flowers infuse, you get a much better flavour. If you boil it up, particularly when you've got some of the stem left in it, it can actually start to taste a little bit medicinal. So all the flowers go in, and you're putting in enough to cover the surface of the pan quite thickly. Of course, if you're a diabetic, you probably won't want to use any sugar, and in that case you could either use another herb like stevia or sweet cicely, if you also like that anise taste. They're both naturally sweet. Or you could just make a tea as well and not have a cordial. Once they're all in, what I just do is make sure that they're very, very firmly wetted down. The water's still very hot, and then put a lid on them and let them infuse for several hours. Or if it's in the evening, you could let them infuse overnight. And that way all the flavour will pass from the flowers into the liquid. Now it's infused, we're just going to strain it off, and you can see that the liquid's changed colour from being clear water to quite a yellow colour there. So we're going to pour some out and then dilute it with some fizzy water. Cheers. That's good, isn't it?